I never thought I'd be the one to say this on camera. But 3I Atlas didn't just pass through our solar system. It triggered something we were never supposed to detect. Before we begin, I need you to do something. Comment your city name below and tell me. Have you noticed anything unusual in the night sky recently? Strange lights? Objects moving in patterns that don't make sense? NASA has been quietly collecting reports, and what I'm about to share may change the way you see humanity's place in the universe. My name is Michio Kaku, and for over 4 decades, I've dedicated my life to understanding the cosmos through the lens of theoretical physics. I've spent countless hours contemplating the nature of reality, the fabric of space-time, and the possibility, no, the probability, of intelligent life beyond Earth. But nothing in my career, nothing in the entirety of human scientific endeavor, prepared me for what happened when 3I Atlas entered our cosmic neighborhood. It began as it always does in science, with an anomaly. On January 5th, a date that will be etched into the annals of human history, observatories around the world detected something impossible. Not the comet itself. We'd been tracking 3I Atlas since its discovery. What we detected was something far more disturbing. Every atomic clock on Earth, from the national laboratories to the GPS satellites orbiting above us, experienced what we're now calling a global timing failure. For exactly 7.3 seconds, time itself seemed to stutter. Let me be clear about what this means. Atomic clocks measure time using the oscillation of cesium atoms. They're accurate to 1 second in 300 million years. These instruments don't fail. They don't drift. They don't experience collective hallucinations. And yet, simultaneously, across every continent, every ocean, every scientific facility equipped with precision timing equipment, they all recorded the same impossible event. Time stopped moving forward the way it should. I received the first call at 3:47 a.m. It was Dr. Sarah Chen from the Deep Space Network facility in Goldstone, California. Her voice was shaking, not from fear, but from the weight of what she was about to tell me. "Michio," she said, "we need you to look at something, and we need you to tell us we're not losing our minds." What she showed me made my blood run cold. The data streams from our deep space monitoring systems had captured something during those 7.3 seconds. While our atomic clocks were experiencing their timing failure, while the very foundation of our measurement of reality was being disrupted, 3I Atlas was emitting a signal. Not radio waves, not electromagnetic radiation in any conventional sense. This was something that existed at the quantum level, a manipulation of space-time itself that our instruments could barely detect, let alone comprehend. But here's what truly terrifies me. The signal wasn't random, it was structured, it was intelligent, and it was directed at Earth. For years, I've appeared on television, in lecture halls, in books and documentaries, speaking about the possibility of extraterrestrial intelligence with cautious optimism. I've discussed the Fermi paradox, the Drake equation, the vast distances between stars that make interstellar communication so challenging. I've always believed that if we ever made contact with an alien civilization, it would be a moment of triumph for humanity, a cosmic coming of age. I was wrong. What 3I Atlas transmitted wasn't a greeting. It was a warning. And the method of transmission, the way it could reach across space and manipulate the fundamental structure of time itself, suggests a level of technological advancement so far beyond our current understanding that we are, quite literally, like insects, trying to comprehend calculus. The NASA teams worked around the clock to decode what we were receiving. I joined a classified briefing at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, where scientists from every major space agency had assembled. The room was filled with the brightest minds in physics, astrophysics, quantum mechanics, and computer science. And I watched as, one by one, the color drained from their faces as the translation algorithms began to piece together the message. The Comet 3I Atlas, you see, isn't just a comet. It's a probe, an artifact from a galactic civilization so ancient that they were mapping the universe before our sun was born. And the message it carries is one that has been delivered to thousands of worlds across the Milky Way, a cosmic quarantine notice. Let me explain what this means. For centuries, we've wondered why we haven't detected signals from other intelligent species. We've built massive radio telescopes. We've listened to the cosmos. We've sent out our own messages hoping for a reply. The silence has been deafening, and it's haunted every scientist who's ever gazed up at the stars and asked, "Where is everyone?" Now we know. They're there. They've always been there. But they're not talking to us. They're watching us, waiting. And 3i Atlas is their way of telling us why. According to the decoded transmission, humanity exists in what they call a developmental quarantine zone. We are one of approximately 847 civilizations in our galaxy that have reached a critical threshold, the point where we have developed technology capable of detecting the deeper structures of reality, but haven't yet evolved the consciousness necessary to use that knowledge responsibly. Think about it. We've split the atom. We've peered into the quantum realm. We're on the verge of creating artificial intelligence that may surpass human cognition. We're manipulating genes, editing the very code of life itself. But we're still a species driven by tribalism, by conflict, by short-term thinking that threatens our own survival. The galactic civilization, and yes, there is one, a vast network of intelligent species that have transcended the limitations we still struggle with. They've seen this pattern before. They've watched countless worlds reach this moment, and they know what happens next. Some civilizations make it through. They evolve beyond their destructive tendencies. They develop what the message calls universal awareness, a collective consciousness that recognizes the fundamental interconnectedness of all things. These species graduate from the quarantine. They're welcomed into the galactic community. They become part of something greater than themselves. But most don't make it. Most civilizations destroy themselves. They unleash technologies they can't control. They poison their worlds. They wage wars with weapons that tear apart the fabric of reality itself. And when they collapse, they leave behind scars in space-time that can take millions of years to heal. The quarantine exists to protect the galaxy from these collapses, to contain the damage, to ensure that a species' self-destruction doesn't ripple outward and threaten others. And 3i Atlas is here to determine which path humanity will take. The timing failure we experienced, that 7.3-second anomaly, wasn't an accident. It was a test. The probe was measuring our response. How quickly did our systems adapt? How did our infrastructure handle an unexpected disruption to the fundamental nature of time? How did we, as a species, react when the laws of physics appeared to break down? Every piece of data from those 7.3 seconds has been recorded, analyzed, transmitted back to whatever vast intelligence network is monitoring our progress. And based on that data, a decision will be made about humanity's future. I keep thinking about what this means for everything we believe about ourselves. We pride ourselves on our scientific achievements, our technological progress, our mastery over nature. But in the eyes of this galactic civilization, we're children playing with matches in a room full of dynamite. We're a potential threat that needs to be managed, contained, evaluated. It's humbling, it's terrifying, and it forces us to confront questions we've been avoiding. The decoded message contained something else. A timeline. Other civilizations that were placed in developmental quarantine zones received periodic evaluations. The intervals vary based on the species' rate of technological advancement, but for humanity, the next evaluation is projected to occur within the next 50 years. That's not a long time. That's within the lifetime of children being born today. If we pass, the quarantine lifts. We receive what the message calls the invitation. Access to technologies, knowledge, and connections that would transform human civilization beyond recognition. Imagine it, clean, limitless energy. The ability to manipulate matter at the molecular level. Medicine that could eliminate disease and extend lifespans indefinitely. Faster than light travel using principles of physics we haven't even discovered yet. But if we fail, if we prove ourselves unable to overcome our destructive patterns, the quarantine becomes permanent. And there's a darker implication buried in the data. Civilizations that fail their evaluations repeatedly, that continue to pose a threat even as they advance technologically, are sometimes subjected to what the message refers to as developmental reset. I don't know exactly what that means. The translation algorithms struggled with that section. but the emotional context suggests something catastrophic, something final. The scientists at the briefing sat in silence for a long time after we finished reviewing the data. What do you say when you discover that your entire species is being graded by intelligences we can't even comprehend? How do you process the knowledge that our future, our very survival, depends on passing a test we didn't know we were taking? Dr. Chen finally spoke. How do we tell people? She asked. How do we explain this without causing mass panic? That's been the question plaguing government officials and scientific leaders ever since. Do we disclose everything? Do we tell humanity that we're living in a cosmic probationary period, being watched and judged by alien intelligence? Or do we keep it quiet, continue our work behind the scenes, and hope that knowledge of the quarantine doesn't fundamentally destabilize human society? I've always been an advocate for transparency. I believe people have a right to know the truth about the universe we inhabit. But this is different. This isn't abstract knowledge about distant galaxies or theoretical particles. This is information that strikes at the core of human identity and autonomy. And there's another complication. The signal from 3i Atlas contained coordinates, locations of other quarantined civilizations in our galactic neighborhood. Some are hundreds of light years away. Others are closer, much closer than we ever imagined. One of them is in the Proxima Centauri system, just 4.24 light-years from Earth. We've detected planets there. We've pointed our telescopes in that direction, wondering if life might exist. Now we know it does. And they're in the same situation we are, being evaluated, being watched, waiting to see if they'll be allowed to join the greater galactic community or if they'll collapse into extinction. The message suggested something that I find both beautiful and heartbreaking. If both civilizations, ours and theirs, pass the evaluation, we would likely be introduced to each other first. Two species that evolved in isolation, that developed independently, brought together as the newest members of an ancient cosmic network. But that's only if we make it. I've spent the week since the briefing trying to understand what making it actually requires. The message provided some guidance, though it's frustratingly vague. It speaks of achieving a harmonic resonance between technological capability and conscious evolution. It mentions the importance of recognizing that intelligence isn't just about computation or problem solving. It's about wisdom, empathy, the ability to see beyond individual or tribal interests to the well-being of the whole. In other words, we need to grow up. We need to evolve not just our tools, but ourselves. Look at where we are right now as a species. We have the technology to feed everyone on this planet, yet millions starve. We have the knowledge to transition to clean energy, yet we continue burning fossil fuels that poison our atmosphere. We have the capability to cooperate across borders to solve global challenges, yet we fracture into competing factions over ideologies and resources. We're smart enough to build atomic weapons, but apparently not wise enough to completely dismantle them. We're clever enough to create artificial intelligence that might surpass human cognition, but we haven't seriously grappled with the existential questions that raises. We're advanced enough to detect the quantum underpinnings of reality, but we use that knowledge primarily to build better computers and more efficient weapon systems. This is what the galactic civilization sees when they look at us. A species with enormous potential and equally enormous risk. A civilization standing at a crossroads, with the path to transcendence on one side and the path to self-destruction on the other. The timing failure wasn't random. I'm convinced of that now. It happened during a period of significant global tension, political conflicts, economic instability, environmental crises reaching critical points. The probe was measuring how our systems respond under stress, how resilient we are, how adaptable. And I wonder, did we pass that particular test? The fact that our infrastructure held together, that we didn't descend into panic or chaos, suggests maybe we're more ready than we think. But then I look at the larger patterns, the trajectories we're on, and I'm not so sure. There's something else in the data that haunts me. The message contained references to civilizations that came before us, species that reached our level of development, that were placed in quarantine, that were evaluated and found wanting. Some of the references are millions of years old, dead worlds orbiting distant stars, monuments to the failure of intelligence to transcend its own limitations. But there are also success stories, civilizations that made the transition, that evolved beyond their destructive patterns and joined the galactic community. And according to the decoded transmission, these civilizations often share certain characteristics. They develop a deep reverence for life in all its forms. They recognize the fundamental interconnectedness of consciousness across the universe. They shift from seeing themselves as separate, competing entities to understanding that they are expressions of a larger cosmic pattern. It sounds almost spiritual, doesn't it? And maybe that's what we've been missing. We've been so focused on the material, the measurable, the quantifiable, that we've neglected the aspects of existence that can't be reduced to equations: consciousness, meaning, purpose, connection. The great irony is that quantum mechanics, the very cutting edge of our scientific understanding, has been pointing us toward these conclusions for a century. The observer affects the observed. Reality is fundamentally interconnected at the quantum level. Separation is an illusion created by our limited perception. We've had the clues all along. We just haven't been paying attention. I think about my career, all the years I've spent exploring the mysteries of the universe, and I realize that we've been asking the wrong questions. We've been so focused on how does it work that we forgot to ask why does it exist. We've been so eager to master the forces of nature that we forgot to ask what responsibility comes with that mastery. The alien technology demonstrated by 3I Atlas, the ability to manipulate spacetime, to transmit information across vast distances instantaneously, to interface directly with the quantum substrate of reality, all of this requires a level of understanding that goes beyond mere technical knowledge. It requires wisdom. It requires a fundamental shift in consciousness. And that's what the quarantine is really about. Not just protecting the galaxy from our weapons or our mistakes. It's about ensuring that by the time a civilization gains access to truly transformative technology, they've evolved the consciousness necessary to use it wisely. We're not there yet, but we could be. The next 50 years will determine everything. Every choice we make, individually and collectively, contributes to the evaluation. Every act of compassion or cruelty, every decision to cooperate or compete, every moment where we choose short-term gain over long-term sustainability, all of it matters. All of it is being recorded, measured, analyzed by intelligence far beyond our current comprehension. It's overwhelming to think about, the weight of it, the responsibility, but there's also something strangely liberating about it. For the first time in human history, we have a clear answer to the question, are we alone? No, we're not. We're part of something vast and ancient and magnificent. We're connected to a cosmic story that spans galaxies and eons, and we have a choice about what role we'll play in that story. Will we be another cautionary tale? Another civilization that reached for the stars but collapsed under the weight of its own contradictions? Or will we be something different? Will we be the species that made the leap, that evolved beyond tribalism and short-sightedness, that joined the galactic community and contributed our unique perspective to the great cosmic conversation? I don't know the answer yet. None of us do. That's what makes this moment so critical. We're writing the story right now, with every decision, every action, every thought. The governments of the world are still debating how much of this information to release publicly. There are legitimate concerns about panic, about disruption to social order, about the potential misuse of this knowledge by those who would exploit fear for their own gain. But I believe people deserve to know. Not all the details, perhaps, not the technical specifications or the classified response protocols, but the essential truth, that we're being watched, that we're being evaluated, that our future depends on our ability to evolve, not just technologically, but consciously. The space anomaly represented by 3I Atlas isn't just a comet. It's a mirror. It's showing us what we are and asking us what we want to become. I've spent my life studying the laws that govern the universe, but lately I've been thinking about something beyond laws. Purpose, meaning. The question of why the universe seems to be structured in a way that gives rise to consciousness, to intelligence, to beings capable of contemplating their own existence. Maybe the answer is sitting right in front of us. Maybe the universe evolves consciousness because consciousness is how the universe comes to know itself. We are the universe becoming aware of itself. And the quarantine system, this vast network of evaluation and guidance, is how the universe ensures that awareness develops in a way that's constructive rather than destructive. Every civilization that passes the evaluation adds something to the collective consciousness of the galaxy. New perspectives, new ways of being, new expressions of what intelligence can become. And every civilization that fails is a lesson, a reminder of what happens when technological power outpaces wisdom. We have 50 years, more or less, 2 generations, time enough to change our trajectory if we choose to, time enough to evolve our consciousness to match our technological capabilities, but only if we start now. The decoded message from 3i Atlas included one final piece of information that I haven't mentioned yet. A single word repeated throughout the transmission that the translation algorithms struggled to interpret because there's no perfect equivalent in human language. The closest translation we have is potential. That's what they see in us. Potential. We could go either way. We could become a force for creation and connection in the galaxy, or we could burn ourselves out and leave behind nothing but ruins and warnings for the next species that comes along. The timing failure, those 7.3 seconds when time itself seemed to pause, that was the universe holding its breath, waiting to see what we would do, how we would respond, whether we were ready to glimpse the deeper reality that exists beyond our everyday perception. And now the breath has been released and we're moving forward again, but everything has changed. We know we're not alone. We know we're being watched. We know that our choices matter in ways we never imagined. Some nights I stand outside and look up at the stars, and I try to imagine what's out there. Not just planets and galaxies and cosmic structures, but consciousness, intelligence, beings who have transcended the limitations we still struggle with. Civilizations millions of years old, so advanced that their technology would appear to us as magic. And I wonder, are they hoping we make it? Are they rooting for us, these ancient cosmic entities, wanting to welcome us into their community? Or are they simply indifferent, observing us with the detached interest of scientists studying bacteria in a petri dish? I'd like to think it's the former. I'd like to believe that the universe is fundamentally biased toward life, toward consciousness, toward the evolution of intelligence that can appreciate and contribute to the cosmic symphony. But belief isn't enough. We have to earn it. We have to prove that we deserve to join that larger community. And the only way to do that is to change, to evolve, to become something more than we currently are. The space discovery represented by 3i Atlas is the most important event in human history, even if most people don't know it yet. It's more significant than fire, than agriculture, than the Industrial Revolution, than the splitting of the atom, because it's not just about technology or capability. It's about identity. It's about understanding our place in the vast cosmic order. We are children who have just discovered that our house is part of a neighborhood, that our neighborhood is part of a city, that our city is part of a nation, that our nation is part of a planet, that our planet is part of a galaxy that is teeming with life and intelligence and wonder beyond our wildest dreams. And now we have to decide what kind of neighbors we want to be. The artificial intelligence we're developing, the quantum computers we're building, the genetic engineering we're pioneering. All of this is taking us closer to capabilities that could either elevate us beyond our current limitations or destroy us utterly. The knife edge we're walking has never been sharper. But that's always been the nature of evolution, hasn't it? Organisms that can't adapt to changing conditions go extinct. The universe has no special attachment to humanity as a species. If we fail this test, if we prove unable to evolve the consciousness necessary to wield our growing power responsibly, the universe will continue without us. Other species will get their chance. The great cosmic experiment will go on. I don't want that to be our legacy. I don't want humanity to be a footnote in the galactic record books, another promising civilization that couldn't overcome its own destructive tendencies. We have something unique to offer, Our art, our music, our literature, our peculiar human way of finding meaning and beauty in a universe that doesn't owe us either. The perspective that comes from our specific evolutionary journey, our particular vantage point on existence. The galaxy needs that diversity. That's what the message suggested. That's why they bother with the quarantine system at all, instead of just leaving primitive civilizations to their own devices. Because every successful civilization adds something irreplaceable to the collective wisdom of the galactic community. But we have to survive long enough to share it. As a theoretical physicist, I'm trained to think in terms of probabilities and possibilities. And when I run the calculations in my head, when I look at the trajectories we're on, the probability of humanity passing this cosmic evaluation is uncertain. Not impossible, not hopeless, but far from guaranteed. We have all the pieces we need to succeed: the technology to solve our material problems, the knowledge to understand our place in the cosmos, the capacity for empathy and cooperation that could, if properly cultivated, unite us as a species. What we lack is the will, the commitment, the recognition that this isn't just another challenge we can postpone or ignore. This is the test that determines whether humanity has a future among the stars, or whether we'll be confined to this single planet until we exhaust its resources and ourselves. Sometimes I think about those other 846 civilizations currently in quarantine zones across our galaxy. I wonder if they know about each other. I wonder if they're struggling with the same questions, the same fears, the same hopes. I wonder if some of them are watching their skies the way we watch ours, looking for signs, for answers, for hope. And I wonder what they would think of us if they could see us. Would they recognize kindred spirits, fellow travelers on the journey toward cosmic maturity? Or would they see competitors, potential threats, beings to be wary of? The truth is, we're all in this together, whether we know it or not. Every quarantine civilization is part of the same cosmic trial. We're all being asked the same fundamental question: can you evolve beyond your origins? Can you transcend the survival instincts and tribal loyalties that served you well in your primitive state, but now threaten your existence? For humanity, the answer to that question will be written in the years ahead. Written in our choices about climate change and nuclear weapons. Written in our decisions about artificial intelligence and genetic engineering. Written in our ability or inability to see beyond national borders and recognize our common humanity. Written in whether we choose fear or hope, division or unity, short-term gain or long-term sustainability. The timing failure has ended. The signal has been sent. The evaluation has begun. And somewhere out there, beyond the reach of our telescopes but not beyond the reach of their observation, ancient intelligence watches and waits to see what we will become. I started this by telling you that 3I Atlas didn't just pass through our solar system. It triggered something we were never supposed to detect. Now you know what that something was. A revelation, a warning, an opportunity. The question now is what we do with it. What other assumptions about the nature of existence are we ready to question? What other limitations are we ready to transcend? The signal has been sent. The message has been delivered. The cosmic quarantine we didn't know we were in has been revealed. Now comes the hardest part. Not understanding what we've learned, but changing because of it. So tell me, are you ready to evolve? Is humanity ready to become something more than we've ever been? The universe is watching, and it's waiting for our answer.